Brad Gillis, good to see your face. Welcome that you're here. You know, we've exchanged a lot of text in the last couple of weeks, but
Yes.
It's good to see you and glad that you're here.
Well, thanks for having me, Randy. And of course, having Dayna on is quite a treat because we go back since the dawn of time. Actually, the dawn of
No, you're older than me.
the dawn of rock and roll. Yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
and
the 80s.
And a friendly hello to Dayna Steele, my friend Dayna Steele. Thanks for being here, Dayna. It's great to see you as always.
Hey
It seems like we see more and more of each other all the time. You were out at one of my shows in Kima a couple of weeks ago, and that was a nice surprise. So it's good to have you here, right?
Yeah, and you think I came to see you, and I actually was there for the crawfish.
Well,
Gulf of Mexico, it's crawfish season, baby.
We'll go with that. We'll go with that. Well, Dayna, I guess my first question is I wanted to tee this up for you because I want you to set me straight on where you connect with Brad. Like, where do you...
Oh my God, it was the 80s. Who knows?
From what you remember, tell us where you guys connected.
It has to be KLOL and rock and roll auctions. And I mean, it was the 80s. And if you were in a rock band in the 80s and you came through Houston, Texas, the fourth largest city in the United States with one of the top 5 AOR stations in the country, you came to KLOL. And you didn't normally come to the morning show because you couldn't get up that early. And you didn't come to the afternoon drive show because you were doing sound check. And I was the top interviewer at KLOL. I'm the one they took to the Grammys or whatever to do interviews. So anytime it involved an interview, it was usually middays. They would come to the radio station, and that's where I got to know so many of these people that I have maintained gratefully such incredible friendships with to this day. Because we were young, we were in our 20s. It was the 80s. We were rocking. It was one of the top rock stations. It was the top bands. And so, if Night Ranger came through, they were going to be up at the radio station more often than not with me. And I was there for, I want to say 16 years.
Wow.
It's like dog years in rock and roll in radio. I was there forever. So, I would see these guys every year or every couple of years, and Pace Concerts would fly me out to their shows to do interviews, to promote upcoming shows. And then people like Brad came in several times for the KLOL rock and roll auction.
Which
And we
was
all, oh, it was it was such a blast, but we all knew, I mean, every year we did it for a different cause, and we were all unbelievably passionate about whatever cause we chose. It was not corporate radio. We were family owned. The Joneses,
Yes.
Jones Fountain, Jones Road, Jones Hall. You couldn't pick us up and put us in any other city. We were so Houston centric. And these rock stars would come in and not only have a ball getting to know each other and jamming with each other, but we would make sure they were aware of whatever the cause was that year.
Sure.
So that we could really raise a lot of money, and we did. It was unheard of back then. Now Sotheby's auctions off everybody's stuff, but we were the first ones to say, "Hey, can we have your underwear?"
Right. Well, it seems like if I remember correctly, like the N Hunger Network, that was part of the rock and roll auction, and
we did. It was a different charity every year, but
sure,
yeah,
sure. And Brad, what about you? What was your recollection? Like that was Dana's perception of what she remembered from the 80s. What did you remember from the 80s about KLOL in Houston?
Well, it was the 80s, so I don't remember much.
Yeah, see?
But I got to tell you, I remember you drew a lot of people to those auctions, to the jam sessions at that, and thousands of people every time you did it. And I just remember hanging out with the Bon Jovis and Vince Neils and all these great players, and we would set up different jams at the auction. With different people, and it was like a box of chocolates. You never know who you're going to get, what you're going to jam with, and it was awesome because I loved stepping out of the box back then because I played with Night Ranger, playing the same set every night, just different city. It was awesome to be part of that, and then after the auction, the big parties after that. We all go out and goof off and do whatever, but it was just a fun time for all. And I don't know, 6, 7 times probably every year.
Yeah, I mean, it was a lot.
Well, I think
Yeah.
the auction started in, if my memory, so I was a senior in high school. I think 84 is when the auction started. I don't know if
In
that
a
sounds
record
right, Dayna,
store
but
in Sharpstown Center with me, Joan Jett, and a fresh out of rehab Steven Tyler and Joe
Wow.
Perry standing on the counter at the record store.
wow.
That's where it started.
That's where it started, at a record store. I think it was Cactus Records. That's where they were back then.
Yep, you're right.
And I remember the party that night was at my apartment because it was the very first one we moved up. And that was my first exposure to Joan Jett. She walked in my apartment and went, "Where can I take a piss?" And I was like, "Not in a plant." I mean, like,
That's
so,
funny. Well,
but that was where it started, on the counter.
and I think
at
it
that
went to
record
like 1993, if I'm not mistaken. And Brad, how many years did you say you were involved? Well, quite a few years, right?
Like
Were you-
6 or
Quite a few.
7.
It's hard to recall exactly when, but I know throughout the 80s, at least 5, if not more. But we
Brad
all,
was one of those people that every time we called, he said yes.
Okay.
So he would be one of the first people we called to make sure it got on the schedule. And then if Jack could come with him, Jack Blades, Jack would come.
yeah.
And those were just some of you guys were some of the first people we reached out to because we knew that if you could, you would say yes, and we wanted to get on your schedule.
Yeah, and it was so much fun. Like I said, it was great. And, because how often do you get to jam with all these other big rock stars unless you're in a situation like that?
Oh, and the stories that happened. Gene Simmons and Jessica, what was her name? That was where they first got together. That was it went on to be a big scandal, but whatever.
You know
We
what's
had a
funny?
lot of fun at those auctions.
You know what's funny, and Brad, I think you might be a mutual friend, but I'm good friends with Bethany Heavenstone, the bass player for the Grand Bonnet Band, right? And she was telling me about the first time she met Gene Simmons. She was talking to him backstage somewhere, and she said, "Gene, my eyes are up here." It's like Gene being Gene. But yeah, I also understand, and we won't go into any gory detail, but there might have been some after parties from the rock and roll auction as well, right? That's
There
just
were.
hearsay, though, right?
Gene
Hearsay.
But
Simmons.
you know what? People got together. You had Tommy Shaw and Jack Blades and Ted Nugent. What did
Damn
that
Yankees.
eventually become?
Damn
You know,
Yankees, yeah.
yeah, thanks to John Kalodner, and just these different artists that would get together. Earl Slick and Phantom Rocker and Slick, and yeah, I have a golden retriever who wants attention. Um, but yeah, it's been really nice over the years to keep in touch with Brad and see the fans still love and appreciate Night Ranger so much.
Well, thank you. I got to tell you, we've been doing roughly 80, 85 shows a year for the past decade or more, maybe 2 decades. But, we went from William Morris to CAA. And once we did that, we upped our game and everything changed and more shows here. We got to have that major tour back in 2011 with Journey, Foreigner, Night Ranger all over the world. That was huge. Of course, we're doing festivals all the time. There's so much going on with this band that you wouldn't think would happen after 40-something years. But we just played in Budokan in Tokyo and sold it out. And it was absolutely awesome because we hadn't done that since the 80s. And we sold out 2 of them. But to go back there and do that was astronomically cool. We didn't know how well we do, but what we did to change it up for the Japanese is we went back in and learned all these cuts that we hadn't played for years and added them to a 2-hour and 45-minute set at Budokan.
Wow.
And it paid off because we announced that we were going to go deep. And that was awesome. And, we got the Monsters of Rock cruise coming up. We're going to Europe and doing the big Frontiers Records Festival. We got shows with, CC Top, Brett Michaels, anybody and everybody this summer. The machine keeps rolling. And I thank my lucky stars for that. But, as far as the health thing, we changed everything thing around with the band too, with Jack and Kelly and me, the three originals, that we're all eating and good salads every night and a lot of fish and staying away from, unhealthy snacks and dinners and stuff. So everybody's on this health kick, and it's paying off and I'm 68 and I'm the young one out of the three. So
do you have a nutritionist or a trainer? I know Metallica was like touring for a while there with a nutritionist and a trainer and a yogi master, and I mean we've all had to change.
No, we just know what to do. We know what to eat. I know to work out, swim at every hotel, do light lifting. I can't do heavy lifting. I play guitar. I can't stiffen up my fingers. And walking around every town I go to. So if it's not snowing or raining outside, I'll swim, work out, and do a 1 to 2 hour walk around town with my headphones in, with my latest, greatest fun music to listen to. And it's paying off. But, this band, we've been doing it so long that we got it down. It's a machine, and we've got a great crew. I was lucky enough to get Darren Hurst as a guitar tech, who totally changed up my game for my sound. And he did 5 years with Peter Frampton and many years with Joe Perry, Aerosmith, and he was available, and I grabbed him. And when he got to the camp, he just loved us because he felt like it was a family oriented situation, and he loved that idea. Because the other camps, he said, weren't too corporate or whatever. So he came in and rewired my whole rig and got my sound twice as big. And once he did all that, I remember doing sound check, and my sound man came up or went through the microphone and said, "Holy shit, what'd you do to your sound?" Or what? I pointed to Darren. I go, "He did it all." So it's good to have people like that involved, and everybody else in crew wise have been wonderful. And Ed Repepe, our road manager, he's a jack of all trades, the wearer of many and every hat you could think of, greatest guy in the world, and he's really brings it all together. And the band, Jack Kelly and I, especially, will never hear of any issues when we come to the show before we play, because he's rectified any issue and sweeps it under the carpet, right?
Which is how it should be, right?
That's how it should be.
Yep.
Randy, I got to tell you a great story. The last time they played at Agua Caliente, one of the casinos in the Palm Springs area. We happened to be out there at our house out there, and I texted Brad and said, I'm old. I'm not coming to the show. I'll come to sound check. And so Ed comes and gets me. I'm sitting out, in the dark. Everybody who's paid for the VIP, experience is sitting up front watching sound check. And like halfway through a song, Jack goes, "Is that Dayna?" And I'm thinking, I can't see that well anymore. And Brad's like, "Yeah."
That's fun.
So that was nice.
Go. Yeah, I was always happy to have you around.
That was nice. Well, I'm going to jump off, guys, because I know Brad and I can tell all kinds of stories that no one else cares about. But Randy's got all like the technical questions and the guitar questions. So
yeah,
I love you both dearly.
Yeah.
I love you too, Dayna. Keep in touch, please.
Thanks for jumping in.
All right. I'll see you out on the road somewhere.
Good deal.
Thanks,
bye, guys.
See ya.
All righty.
The lovely Dayna Steele. How about that, Brad? Guest appearance.
Great. There you go.
Well, so, you guys have been doing a lot. You're still relevant. You're still moving around the world doing your thing. But let's take a quick trip in the time machine real quick, right? Let's go back a couple of years to the Rubicon days, right? That was a couple of days back, right?
Late 70s.
Yeah. So Rubicon, I guess, was founded, you correct me on the dates, right? But the bicentennial year, 76, does that sound about
roughly
right?
Around then, yes.
Okay.
And just to let you know how that came about, I started playing young. The Beatles came out. I wanted to be Ringo Starr. My parents got me a drum set, this little cheap drum set. I was banging the hell out of it in back of my room. My parents were like, "I got stop." And I said, "Well, give me a guitar, an electric guitar, and an amp." And they're like, "Okay, just no more drums, but you got to take lessons." So they got me a K Vanguard 2 guitar and a K amplifier for my 8th birthday. And I remember taking lessons, and basically I didn't want to learn Mary Had a Little Lamb sheet music, right? So a friend of my brother's, who was, my brother's 7 years older, his buddy came over and said, Brad, you're doing pretty good. You know the chorus, just start listening to the radio. Really paid off. Wow. I would listen to the radio. Back then, songs were pretty easy, rock songs, and I would learn any and everything that came on the radio by ear, picking up the root chord and everything. So that got me moving further along at a young age. At 10 years old, I started my first band called the Invaders, which are kids around me that just learning how to play, but I was pretty good. We kind of did that band for a while. Then I got in bigger, better bands through high school. And when I was a freshman, I joined a band with all seniors in Alameda, California, in the East Bay by Oakland, San Francisco, and started a band and played high school and such. And then after high school, when I graduated, I got in a club band at 18 years old with all guys in their early 20s. And I was even too young to be in a bar, but they would let me in the bar as long as I didn't drink, and I stayed in the back.
Sure.
Well, I ended up going to Berkeley and getting a fake ID for $50 and it changed my world.
That's awesome.
I was dating a woman in their 20s, and they said, "You look so young." How old are you? I go, 21. You look so young for your age. Little did they know. Right. Anyway, playing all those songs in clubs, I did that for a year, which was absolutely the best thing that could have ever happened to me, because I played 5 sets, 5 nights a week of all the disco, funky ninth chord stuff that was coming out, and then Bad Company songs and Leonard Skinner songs, whatever was in that mid 70s, 76, 75, 6 era. And then I remember someone said there's some band looking for a guitar player who got a record deal on 20th Century Fox Records, and they needed a guitar player. So I knew these guys were coming. And sure enough, there's these guys sitting in the audience, dressed like rockers with their arms crossed, watching me play. And I thought, these must be the guys, right? And I got done with the set, and they came up and said, "Hey, you sound pretty good. You want to come to SIR, Studio Instrument Rentals in San Francisco, to audition for this band Rubicon?" I said, "Sure." So Jack Blaze from Night Ranger was in that band too. So went to rehearsal. They'd went through like 25 people and still haven't found the right guy. And they had picked Danny Chauncey. Now, I grew up with Danny Chauncey in Alameda, California. We had, in high school, we had rival bands. And Danny was a great player, more blues oriented, but real good, real soulful, real tasty. And he had the cassette of all the Rubicon songs.
Really?
And they said, "Well, you got the gig. We got this one more guy coming in, Brad Gillis." And Danny's like, "Oh, great," right? So I went into audition with Jack Blaze on bass, and I remember we hit it off, and we were doing this little dance, and we were like bouncing up and down, dancing in like the circle, doing this funk jam. And they got done, and Jerry Martini, who was the leader of Rubicon, who was the sax player in Sly and the Family Stone, through all the big hits, he had started Rubicon. He said, "All right, let's have a little meeting." So Jack and everybody went to the corner, and they're talking, and I'm sitting on stage going, "All right, here's my fate," right? And Jerry looks up and goes, "All right, who's going to get the cassette back from Danny Chauncey?" So I knew I got the gig.
There you go.
Awesome. I felt bad for Danny. He hated me.
That's funny.
They gave me the cassette. I learned the material. We went right into rehearsals to acclimate me, to get me in to learn all the songs. And we went into American Recording right around 76 to record at Richie Podler, his studio. And he had done all these big bands back in the day. He recorded, he produced, and we recorded that first record, the Rubicon record. And it came out, and we did fairly good chart action with a song called "I'm Gonna Take Care of Everything." It was a ballad. It has a few horns in it. And it was, it really wasn't a rock song, but it did pretty well in the charts. Anyway, the great thing about Rubicon is we went in and recorded the second record, and that did okay. But we played the Cal Jam 2 at the Ontario Motor Speedway, March 18th, 1978. The biggest day of my life. 250,000 people when we played, and 100,000 people already left. They were going to have us open the show, but it was too big of a slot to put us on, so they put us after Aerosmith. So it was Aerosmith, Dave Mason, Hart, Santana, all these huge bands back then. We were the only unknown, but it was still the biggest day of my life. So that was Rubicon. And then we weren't doing too well. We weren't getting much action or traction with Rubicon. So we split off. Jack Kelly and me stayed. Kelly had joined Rubicon. Kelly Kagi joined the Rubicon at the very end. And we branched off and started Ranger.
Okay, before you go to Ranger, I wanted to ask you about the music of Rubicon. This was a fusion band, was it not? This was not like just your typical rock band. That you guys blended some different genres in that sound. Did you not?
We were a funk rock band.
Funk rock, okay.
We were kind of a rock band with 3 horns, and we'd go from funky ninth chord to heavy stuff with the horns. It was very cool.
Interesting. Yeah.
But I think it was a little beyond its time back then. And since we were jumping into 2 different genres of funk and rock, it didn't work. A lot of it probably had to do with publicity back then and getting the word out, whatever.
Now,
but we morphed into Ranger.
Were you guys getting on bills with those bands like Boston and the Doobie Brothers with Rubicon before you went to Ranger, though?
No, we didn't tour that much.
Okay.
But the reason we got on the Cal Jam 2 big, huge concert is because every label got to put their biggest rock act on the bill.
Okay.
So every label, that's how they did it then for that show. And we were the big act that would fit that bill because we were from 20th Century Fox Records.
Okay.
So they threw us on the bill. But if you see the double live album and stuff, they bill us with all the big boys, and it's crazy because we were nobody, we just had a one semi hit on the radio. But getting back to morphing into Ranger, we had went in and cut our original demos, which were mastered demos, recorded in a big studio with Pat Glasser. He put us into this big studio and down in LA to record these master demos, we called them. And we had written Don't Tell Me You Love Me and a bunch of all the other songs that were on the first record, along with Sister Christian.
Okay.
So just to let you know the timeline, since we didn't gig that much, nobody really knew who we were, Ranger. We played a couple of shows around the Bay Area. We did a Battle of the Bands and won, but to be nationwide, we were nobody and had no record out. So as Ranger was shopping a record deal in 81, 82-ish, I started a band called the Alameda All-Stars, which were a bunch of buddies from great musicians back at that time, around 1980, 81, when Night Ranger was shopping the deal. So I remember in 1981 going to the Day in the Green big, huge concert at Oakland Outdoor, the stadium there, and I saw Ozzy play with Randy. And that's when, those records came out, all the big records, and I was blown away. So we had learned Crazy Train and Flying High again and put those 2 songs in the Alameda All-Star set. I'm kind of getting into a couple things with a timeline. Randy, you'll probably ask me, but
Sure.
I'm answering a few questions with one long interview here. But so I remember driving up to the Lucky Lion nightclub in the Oakland Hills for an all-star gig, and this would have been March 19th, 1982. And I heard that Randy had died in that plane crash. And I had all my equipment in the back of my truck, a Datsun pickup truck, and I pulled over and I went, are you kidding me? I love this guy. He was great. And my father was a pilot. He flew big commercial jets, but he had a private pilot's license that my dad and I used to fly around the Bay Area in the Cessna, the same, a plane that Randy died in. And so it kind of hit home, and it was pretty freaking heavy. And I was pulled over and went, man, what a loss. So I remember going back up to the Lucky Lion to do our show that night. We did this tribute to Randy. We were playing the Ozzy songs and stuff. And there was a guy there watching me play, and his name was Preston Thrall. He was a drummer, and his brother was Pat Thrall, great guitar player from Alameda too. Pat Thrall had played with the Pat Travers Band, did all the Boom Boom Out Goes the Lights and all those great songs, the live record with Pat Travers. And at that time, Tommy Aldridge was the drummer. So long story, even longer. Preston said, I might be able to get you an audition. I'm like, yeah, sure, right. So Preston told Pat told Tommy told Sharon. And I didn't know it went that far. And there was no way I thought I would even get that gig because I was basically a nobody. And that was, you got to realize that replacing Randy Rhoads at that time in 1982, that was the biggest gig any guitar player could ever imagine.
100%.
The absolutely biggest gig. And I remember like a week went by, and I remember staying up real late and with this girl I had met, and I remember my phone ringing at like at 8 a.m. and woke me up, and there's this lady on the phone going, Hello, Bradley. This is Sharon Arden. We'd like to fly you to New York for an audition with Ozzy Osbourne. And I'm like, come on, I'm sleeping. Who is this? Quit screwing with me, right? She's going, no, this is Sharon. Let me put Ozzy on the phone. And I remember going, yeah, put fucking Ozzy on the phone, right? Yeah, put him on the phone. And they were in New York, supposedly in New York at the time. Sure enough, this male voice comes on. Hello, Bradley, this is Ozzy. And I'm thinking, who's ever screwing with me is doing a really good job at this,
Sure.
right?
All right.
But my father being a pilot, when he would call home from New York and me being in California, there was a slight delay on the phone, a slight delay. And talking to Ozzy, I heard that delay. And I wish I could have seen my face. I think I turned pure white and I was frozen. And I looked at this girl and I said, it's Ozzy. So Ozzy goes, get a pen and paper and write down these songs I want you to learn. I said, okay. And I wish I had that paper because I'm sure like shaking right now. Right. And I wrote down 18, 19 songs. And he said, how many do you know? And I said, I know 3 or 4. And he said, you'll learn them, won't you? And I said, yes, I will. And I felt confident about it because I had learned by ear, and all the songs I was learning for the Alameda All-Stars, I learned everything by ear and solos by ear. And I used to sit in my brother's younger age and play all of his greatest records and learn solos and stuff by ear. So I kind of had that down, right?
Yeah.
So I remember calling my friends on that Sunday morning and having them bring me over any record I didn't have with Black Sabbath to learn these songs on a record player. So I sat around for only one day. I don't think I got too much of it on that Sunday afternoon, but all day Monday I learned it. And I flew out on Tuesday to New York. And I only got to 5 or 6 that I was comfortable with. So basically I landed. I remember I didn't have any credit cards. They sent me the one-way ticket. I had $150 cash to my name. When I flew to New York, I landed. This limo driver guy picked me up, took me to the Helmsley Palace, and they had played Madison Square Gardens that night with Bernie Torme, who just sat in with the band interim until they found a guitar player, which was going to be me. Because when I got to the hotel and they got back from their gig, I got a call to come up and meet Ozzy. And Larry McNeely, the road manager, called me and said, come on up. So I went up and I hear all this music and everything go on behind these 2 big presidential suite, 2 big doors. And I'm banging on the door, and Larry answers the door and he goes, oh, you're Brad, right? I go, yeah. And he goes, you made it okay? You all good? So when I checked on the hotel, they didn't have a reservation with my name. I had $150. The room back then was $135 I had $15 to my name. And I said, I told Larry that story. And he wolfs open his wallet and he gives me 5 $100 bills, slaps them in my palm. He goes, will this work?
No way.
Yeah, well,
Wow.
thank you.
Oh, wow.
He goes, come meet Ozzy, right? So I go over and there's a bunch of people hanging out in this party in Ozzy's room. And I said to Larry, I go, a lot of guys really young like me, long hair. They look like, possibly guitar players might be auditioning. And I said, Larry, how many of these guys are auditioning? He goes, Brad, it's just you. Well, who are these guys? He goes, oh, they're reporters and this and that and whatever. And okay. So he introduced me to Sharon. Oh, hi, Bradley. God, you made it. Come meet Ozzy. And so funny. And Ozzy's sitting on the couch and he's kind of out of it, Mm-hmm. Ozzy, this is Bradley, the chap that we flew out from California. And Ozzy looks up at me and he goes, go get your guitar.
No way.
and I said, okay, I don't have an amplifier. He goes, go get your guitar. Okay. So I didn't even take the elevator. I ran down the stairs. I think it was like 5 floors down, whatever. I grabbed my red Strat that I had all my life. In fact, here it is. I thought I'd show you.
There you go. Yeah.
Same guitar, right?
Yeah.
62 Stratocaster, right? Grabbed it and are you
like shitting yourself at this? Like, what's going through your brain? Like, you finally come full circle. You're in front of Ozzy, and he tells a young kid to go get his guitar. Like, are you shitting yourself at this point?
I'm freaked out. I'm excited, but then I'm happy. That I'm going to audition. I felt good about what I was going to play for him because basically he grabbed me and says, come on upstairs, so we walked up these stairs and Ozzy and me to go to the master suite. And this was the presidential suite. It had this big, huge view of New York City and about 50 people in there. And I just remember walking upstairs and I looked back and all 50 people were staring at me like, oh, this is the big audition. I tell you, the whole Ozzy thing was so much pressure. I
couldn't imagine.
I talk about it and I laugh about it now, but I had to be strong to go through what I went through, and I
of course
ponied up for everything. So we walk up to the room. He closes the door. I sit at the end of the bed with my guitar, sit down. And he kneels in front, cross-legged in front of me on the ground. He goes, "What would you like to play?" And I said, "Well, let's do Flying High again." Because it not only had the great solo that Randy did, but it had this major tapping thing that went through all these different keys that I had it down because I'd been playing with the All-Stars for many times. So I remember him, oh no, here we go now. Him looking up and singing to me, right? This is so crazy, right? So I got to the solo and I played the solo, and he's literally this far from me, watching me play it. And he gets up and right after the solo, he stands up and I stand up, guitar in between us, gives me a big hug, and he goes, "Bradley, pull me through. I love you." He goes, "I love you, Bradley. Pull me through." And I'm like, "Ozzy, I'm here for you. I'll do whatever I can." And I remember he opens the door and yells down to the audience, and he goes, I found it. We got a fucking new guitar player. And I remember everybody like clapping and everything. And I walked downstairs and all these interviewers and people and radio stations and magazines. "Brad, who are you?" And I'm like, "I'm nobody, I was with Rubicon and played Cal Jam too. And so basically Sharon goes, "Great, you're going to come along with us on the road. Tell me what you need on the road." So the next day we traveled to, I'm not sure where we traveled, not too far, on the bus. We got in and they had somebody go out and buy me a boombox, with the cassette in it, boombox, and a little amplifier. And they gave me 2 cassettes from a few months an earlier 82 off-board tapes that Randy had been on. They gave me 2 of these cassettes. So it had the exact, all the songs in the exact order of what we'd be playing live.
Yeah.
So I would sit in my room all day and listen to the cassettes, and I was able to stop and think about it and rewind and go back to learn the songs. And then at night, I would stand at the soundboard and watch Bernie play with the band, with all the lights and the fire and the crowd going nuts, and just thinking, oh my God, I'm I'm gonna be up here soon. And I'll never forget the sound man mixing, and he'd look at me and go, ha, ha, ha. Good luck, buddy. Like, all right, like no pressure there, right?
Yeah.
And so I did that for 4 days, sitting in my room, watching the show live, hopping on the bus, going to the next city, practicing in my room all day. Did that for 4 days, and I felt after the 4th day that I was ready to start with the band. And so I told Sharon and we went and did sound check. I've never played with the band. We did sound check. Ozzy wasn't even there. Mm-hmm. We played 7 out of the 18 songs, and that was my first night. Binghamton, New York, April 19, whatever it was, 1982, sold out. And that was my first show. I didn't know what to wear. They gave me this white Ferrari jumpsuit, and it was white. And then they said, oh, we found a black one. So I wore this black Ferrari jumpsuit for my first show. And I'll never forget.
Do you still have that?
No. I don't remember I didn't actually own that.
Oh, okay.
Then after that, I started wearing other things. It was so long gone. But I remember I screwed up on Revelation, Mother Earth, which is a ballad that kicks into the fast section halfway through. And I went into it a verse and a chorus too early. And I remember Ozzy looking over at me with this look of death, right, basically. And I stopped playing, and they were still playing the slow part when I screwed out. So I went back into it, and I ended up finishing out the set. And I'll never forget because the next night, Sharon comes up and says, Bradley, you're doing a great job, but tonight, don't fuck up, So little by little, I got it all together. Then it went to us doing Irvine Meadows, the live video that we did. It was huge. And then a month or two later, we went into the Ritz and recorded the live Speak of the Devil record. Did 2 nights there, which they released. And then towards the end, things weren't going well. It was just Randy's death, and Ozzy just kind of out of it. Rudy decided to leave. He went back with Quiet Riot, and at the end of the year, I decided to quit and go back with Ranger.
When did it finally sink in for you? Like, how many shows into this did it take to sink in that where you were and who you're playing with? Right? Was it instantaneous, or did it take a while? Like 10 shows in, you're like, I'm playing with Ozzy Osbourne. Did it take a while for it to set in, or not really?
No, that didn't sink in. What took a while to sink in was to get comfortable with the set.
Okay.
And really get into the groove of playing well every night, and playing it right, and trying to do my best to emulate Randy's solos that were classic that you can't really change up. But I started getting into the whammy bar back then, and I wanted to kind of throw my style into the show. So I would do little whammy bar things, and that basically that all came about with the whammy bar. Me incorporating that into my style was with all these great players out there. I just wanted to be different, Yeah. Eddie came out and started doing the harmonic dive bombs and stuff like that, and doing that. So I started hitting harmonics and bringing it up, harmonics and wiggling the bar, and I was banging on the guitar and looking in the mirror, throwing some shapes when I was just around 1980 when I got that tremolo third Floyd Rose ever built, and I was banging on the guitar, and I went, and I was like, what is that? And I narrowed it down to the end of the whammy bar. If you flick it, it made that that sound, right?
Yeah.
And no one had done that before. So at the very end of my solo and Don't Tell Me Lovey, you'll hear then a harmonic. Wee! So I just wanted to be different, man.
Yeah.
I had to cut my own style into my playing, and that's kind of what I'm known for now. And I kind of throw it in here and there and everywhere.
Of course. What kind of person was Ozzy to work for in the short time that you were with him?
Well, he was great to work for. He very professional when he got on stage. What really blew me away right before he go on stage, he was shaking. He was nervous.
Really?
More nervous than me.
No kidding.
You know? And that kind of blew me away. But he'd always go out and he'd always pull it off, sing great and put 110% into it. And he'd always do this thing where he'd have an Ozzy shirt on and he'd shake and he'd rip the shirt off and throw it on the ground and he'd go shirtless for the show. Did it every night.
Yep.
Now, around June or July, whenever it was in 1982, we went down and played down south in Louisiana and Texas, and these two big shows. And I recall that we had a couple of days off in Dallas, I'm pretty sure, and for those days off, we all did our thing. And Sharon calls everybody's room, of course, before cell phones. And Bradley, have you seen Ozzy? And I go, oh, no. And so he was missing for a couple of days. When he showed up morning of the show, he had shaved his head, bald.
Oh, wow. That was that time.
I remember
Sure
Sharon
was, yeah.
like screaming, oh my God, what'd you do? We got to get you a wig. We got to get you a wig. Right. So they had somebody go out and buy him this long blonde wig that came down to here. And I guess Rudy Sarzo used to cut hair, and he ended up cutting the wig to be Ozzy's length as it was before he shaved it. And it looked real. It looked pretty damn good.
Yeah, wow.
And when Ozzy put it on, he's like, I can't wear this fucking thing. Oh. And then came up with the idea of so Ozzy, you rip off your shirt during the stage. What if we put fake blood under your scalp and you rip off this wig super slow so the audience think you ripped your scalp off? He freaking loved that idea. Oh my God, yeah. Oh God, yeah, let's do it. So I even have pictures of, which I might release soon.
You should write that book. You should write that book that you were talking about, right?
Yeah, well, we'll get to that someday. Right. Who knows? But he couldn't wait to get out and do that. And I'll never forget, man. He goes out and he's got the wig on with fake red blood under his scalp. He couldn't see it. Of course, he's starting to sweat. And he rips his shirt off and he throws it to the ground. And the audience, there's 80,000 people at the show. And I remember he starts ripping off his scalp real slow. Because if he just ripped it off, people would know. And he's shaking and ripping it. And then the sweaty blood starts coming down his face. And he ripped the thing and threw it to the ground. And there's 80,000 people with their jaws wide open. They couldn't believe what they just saw. And everybody just like, right? So we got away with that for 2 shows. I think it was Dallas and somewhere in Louisiana. Then the word got out, and but that was probably one of the craziest gigs we'd ever done.
Wow. So that's 82. So you leave, let's see, you leave Ranger, you join Ozzy, right? And then when you leave Ozzy, you come back, and that's when Night Ranger forms. Is that correct?
That's when we
order.
Well, the deal, what happened was we had gotten a record deal.
Okay.
And one of the stipulations with the record deal was if I come back to the band because of my popularity with Ozzy, right? It so happened to worked out well because Rudy had just quit and things were, there's, everybody was, the whole passing of Randy was heavy. Can you imagine just playing with this guy for so long and then all of a sudden he dies in a plane crash and you got to grab somebody else? I mean, it was,
that's crazy.
It was tough, and it was tough for me. And and the fans, it was tough for the fans to even accept me. But after a month or so, I started getting recognition and getting a little love. But so I quit the band, and Ozzy just took a break at that point. We'd finished the Ranger record,
Okay.
and we were going to release our first record, Dawn Patrol. We found out through Billboard magazine, I was looking through it, and a 2-page ad was this country band that had been around for 10 years called the Rangers. And we were called Ranger, and we thought, oh man, it's too close. We don't want to get sued, whatever. So we had written this song called Night Ranger on the first record. So we just put a night in front of it. And I remember the record company printed like 10,000 album jackets that said Ranger on it. And they just had to throw them all away and redo it with Night Ranger. And sure enough, we released it. MTV just came out. We did the video for Don't Tell Me You Love Me. And MTV having a 24/7 video format that was on all the time. They played, and not enough videos to play it. They probably played Don't Tell Me You Love Me 25 times a day.
Of course.
No jive.
Yeah, right.
Which was no problem. And we were lucky enough to go out and tour with Kiss. We went on with Kiss, and they were the greatest guys in the world, man. Gene was great, and Paul Stanley. Everybody was great to us, and just treated us like the new kids, and just make sure we had everything we needed to, that was awesome tour. Then from there, we just went on to all these other big tours with big bands, and then they wanted us to go right in and cut another record because we were doing so well. So we ended up cutting the second record. Now, the record company at the time decided not to put Sister Christian on their first album, which was the best move ever, because they thought we would have longevity and not get the sophomore record get crushed and then our career's over.
Yep.
And then Jack and I had wrote You Can Still Rock in America.
Yep.
So sure enough, we released Still Rockin' America. I did the video all over MTV, boom, kicking butt. And then we released Sister Christian, and that was
blew up, huh?
All over.
Well, the Dawn Patrol, that was your debut effort, right? And it was a million plus
sold a couple
sellers,
million.
Platinum, double platinum,
couple million.
whatever, yeah. Yep.
And then Dawn Patrol, that sold even more. But the thing was, holding off and releasing Sister Christian as the second single from Midnight Madness was huge. And it came to the point where management and record company, they're like, it's time for you guys to headline, which was a great feeling because we went in and designed this great set and had all these couple buses and trucks carrying our equipment. And I remember pulling into La Crosse, Wisconsin was our first headline show. That probably had to be early 84-ish. And on the marquee, it said, tonight, Night Ranger sold out, like 4,000 or 5,000 people. And we were blown away that we're headlining and selling out a huge venue like that. And that's when things started getting bigger and bigger. And we got up to selling 10 to 15,000 seaters, up to the mid 80s. And then trouble started.
Well, this was the Midnight Madness tour, right, Brad?
Yes.
Okay. Then trouble starts. What's going on at this time?
Then trouble starts because the record company, from the success of Sister Christian, kept releasing ballads after ballad after ballad.
Yeah.
And it killed us. I got to tell you, man, it's like we were no longer a rock band. We were a ballad band.
Okay.
And it killed us.
Even with everybody doing them at that time. I mean, everybody was doing them. Everybody had a ballad out at that time, right?
Yeah, but we were ballad after ballad.
Okay.
And, and it killed us. So on the third record, I think it was third or fourth record, we gave a record with all rock songs, no ballads. They said, well, where's your ballad? Well, we don't want to give you one. It's like, we want to be a rock band. No, you need a ballad. Anyway, so we did this ballad. Actually, somebody else co-wrote it, and we released it, and it just killed the band. And by then, we saw all the dudes leaving in the audience, and it was all women, which is cool, but
yeah,
it wasn't right. We weren't a rock band anymore. So that's when we ended up quitting and just taking a break. We were doing like 250 shows a year.
Yeah, I bet.
And that's stupid. That's huge. Stupid's huge. We were traveling for a living.
Was this right around seven? Was this right around Seven Wishes, Brad? Does that sound right? Like 80, 85 time frame is when it kind of.
No, it was 80, 89.
Okay, so later. Okay.
Because every record we released after the fourth or fifth record was ballad after ballad, and it just killed us. So we took a break in 89, and basically, something's going on with my. Never mind. Basically, Jack went on to do the Damn Yankees. I ended up doing a solo record, and I had Derek worked with Derek Sherinian, one of the best keyboard players in the world, known as one of the best still. And I had met Greg Allman, and so I did this record with all instrumentals and 2 songs with Greg Allman. And one song was called Honest to God, and we had a top 10 hit, 18 on Billboard with this song with Greg Allman. It was huge. And, did some local shows around with Greg and stuff, and Greg was awesome, just the greatest guy in the world. And, we got to be good friends. And in fact, my band, the Alameda All-Stars, ended up becoming, I was out with Night Ranger doing my gigs, and the Alameda All-Stars, the band I started out with, ended up being Greg Allman's backup band, when he was Greg Allman and Friends. That was the Alameda All-Stars together. So that's the tie there. Anyway, so ended up putting out this record with Gary Moon on vocals, great singer, awesome, called Feeding Off the Mojo. And while Jack was doing the Yankees thing, and that did okay, not great. We toured a bit, and then ended up that broke up. Yankees broke up. We got back Night Ranger together around 95-ish, and had to slowly kind of bring it back up. And little by little, we had more gigs per year, doing better and better. Then we got with the William Morris booking agency. Then we upped our game more. And then CAA saw us and wanted us to, or the top booking agency, and we signed with them. And then now, we've been with them 10, 15 years now, and we've been doing, like I said, 80 to 90 shows a year and all over the world.
Wow. Well, I take you back to 1985. I remember I was going to school, college in Lafayette, Louisiana, and I remember my buddy saying, "Hey, man, let's go to a concert." I said, "All right, what are we doing? Where are we going?" He's like, "We're going to the Lake Charles Civic Center in Lake Charles, Louisiana, 1985 for the Seven Wishes tour, where Tony Carey and Planet P opened up for you guys there." And Tony's been on my show twice and has become a dear friend. And I thought that was really cool, that's the first time I ever saw you guys was with Planet P back in 80. I think it was around 85. Yeah, it sounds right to you?
Yeah, sounds about right.
Yeah.
It's so funny. I figured out with a few friends of mine and the band guys, just looking back at everything, we've done over 4,000 shows in our career,
Wow.
Which is pretty crazy.
Well, the interesting thing too, Brad, is that after all these years, you guys still have the core members, but you have a couple of, they're not new members, but they're of course newer than the core. Talk to the listeners just real quick about who those 2 other players are in the band. Of course, I know who they are, but for the listeners of Backstage Pass Radio, right?
I think it was about 15 years ago. Jack had found this keyboard player that played at his church that he thought was amazing. And his name was Eric Levy. And he came and auditioned for the band. And fit right in. And he's a jazz player, a monster smoking jazz player, but he plays perfectly for Night Ranger, never misses a note. And he just knows what to play and how to do it and get the right sounds. So he's been a core member of the band for 15 years ish. Yeah. And then about 12 years ago, something like that, we had Joel Hoekstra before that for a couple of years. And Joel was great. Love the guy. Still best buddies with him.
Been on my show
he ended up going on with Whitesnake. Yep. So we got Kerry Kelly in the band.
All right.
And Kerry had spent quite a few years with Alice Cooper and Slash. And Kerry is a monster guitar player. He's just a shredder. And he copped all the Jeff Watson stuff to the T. But he didn't do the 8-finger thing. And but Joel had done it for that. So I remember going up to Kerry and I go, man, because he played everything so perfectly. I said, man, how cool would it be if you were to actually learn and play the 8-finger technique on Still Rockin' America on the solo? And he laughed at me. He goes, yeah, right. Okay, whatever. You know, we had a 2-week break. Got back together 2 weeks later. We were doing sound check. And Kerry, with a big smile on his face, comes up to me. He goes, come on, let's do Rockin' America. And it was just funny because he was so excited to play it. And I didn't get it, right?
Yeah.
So we're playing it. It gets to the solo and I do mine. And Kerry turns around and looks at me. And I'm like,
what?
Finish the song. I go, dude. He goes, yeah, it took me these couple weeks to learn it, but I got it down. So now he's real good at it.
That's awesome.
And so we're playing everything as it should be played, and having, you know, Jack sing the Jack songs and Kelly sing the Kelly songs, and me, you know, the whole 3-part harmony with Night Ranger had always been Jack, Kelly, and me. Yeah. You know, I always did the high harmonies or the super low one, and Jack and Kelly would split off as a root, or the third or the fifth over it, or the third, major or minor third over it, depending on who's singing lead. And I'd always be on top or on the bottom. So we got the right vocals happening. We got doing the right music, and you know, everybody, we're on this health kick right now, and everybody's lean and mean, and so our energy is up, you know, 110% every night.
Yeah. How would you compare the two players though, Brad? Like, you know, from the Watson days to fast forward to Kerry Kelly, like how do they differ in style, just in general? Can you speak to that?
Well, Jeff was a monster player, and he really delved into the 8-finger thing very well. So Kerry also is a great player. And once he learned the 8-finger thing, he shot right up there. So they're both great players in their own mind. Yeah. And I always hated the phrase when somebody go, "Oh, this guitar player is better than that guy," you know, or
different,
or Jimi Hendrix is better than Jeff Beck, or, you know, Jimmy Page is better than Jimi Hendrix, you know, whatever.
Define better.
You don't say that. They're different.
Yeah, of course.
They're not any better. They're different, you know, and they've created their own styles. So you have to recognize them for what they are.
Talk to me real quick about guitars. As you can see behind me, I'm a player. I play professionally here in Cypress, Texas. At one time, about 130 shows a year as a part-time musician. As a part-time musician, but I love guitars. I'm not near the guitarist that you are, but it's my understanding that you have one or two guitars floating around in your house somewhere, right? There might be a collection somewhere.
Well, you know, I got to tell you, I should have started collecting back in the 80s. I sure wish I would have, because that would have, I can imagine the guitars I would have had. We did a long tour with Cheap Trick, and one night we had a night off, and we went and had dinner at Rick Nielsen's house, and at the end of dinner, and he's like, you know, he was excited to show me and Jeff and me and Jack to his guitar collection. So we went down to his basement, and I'm just blown away with, you know, the most killer colored Stratocasters from the 50s, you know, early gold tops. Of course, you know, the big boys, the 59 Les Paul standards. He had all these guitars, and I'm just blown away going, wow. And I think at that time he probably had a couple hundred of them. I should have got into collecting then, but I didn't. But right around 2000, I had a good buddy of mine who just passed away, named Robbie Z, he went by, and I remember looking for a certain guitar I wanted to get, and he had an ad in the paper back then in 2000, and I called him up. He lived in the San Jose area, and he goes, "Yeah, hey Brad Gillis, Night Ranger." He goes, "Hey, come on over, man. I'll show you my collection. I got that guitar you're looking for." Long story short, I went down and I went to his house, and his collection was over the top. He had a big display case that had a 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59 Stratocaster, first year 54 to a 59 or 60, all in a row, all mint, a bunch of great Les Pauls and everything in this big, huge case. I'm like, oh my gosh. And he goes, "Yeah, man, I got a band that I play blues. I want to get in and cut a record." And I said, "Well, I have a friend that I'm working with in Hayward, California, that has a big studio." He goes, "Why don't I get you in the studio and I'll produce your record and play on it. You turn me on to a couple of these guitars." He goes, "No problem." He said, "What do you want?" So I ended up getting a 1953 Gibson ES 175. Beautiful mint guitar. Sounds I get out of that are unbelievable. And a 1956 Les Paul Jr. mint to help him produce and play this record. Well, that got the old fever going. Once I got those and hang out with Robbie, I had to get more.
Forget about it. Yeah.
Next thing you know, I did a second record, got a couple other guitars. Next thing you know, I'm going to music stores. I'm buying guitars. I'm going online. Next thing you know, Craigslist comes out. I'm buying guitars on there. I'm on the road. I go on my days off or before sound check, I go to the local music stores. I'm buying guitars there, having them shipped at home. Next thing you know, I got 150 vintage guitars. I'm on the cover of Vintage Guitar Magazine, a bunch of other magazines showing off my collection, Guitar World, Guitar Player showing off my collection. And I had the fever, right? Well, that's subsided by then. And I still look for guitars for anything vintage. I'm still looking. But I ended up selling a bunch of them, a bunch of the 70s guitars I started collecting because I sold those to get my 50s and 60s, Fenders, Gibsons, Martins. I got a bunch of old, serious old Martins too.
Sure.
Now I'm about down to 90. But I play these guitars, man. A lot of people collect them. I play them. I set them up, intonate them, do everything I can. Polish. One of the most fun things to do is to take it apart, polish it, clean it up, new strings, intonate it, set it up, play it through my amps, maybe do a recording, play it on a recording or something I'm doing with Night Ranger at home. If we're all recording from home, throw it on something. But yeah, man, that's one of my passions.
Well, I saw a video, maybe I don't remember what year it was, but you and Hoekstra were playing at NAMM, and both you guys were playing the, I think it was the Koa Wood T5Z, right? The Taylor. Speak to that guitar. Like, what's your thoughts on the T5Z as a hybrid guitar?
Well, we were working with Taylor, and we were playing Taylor acoustic lives, and they came out with those T5s, and they actually gave me one. And I used to actually play one live on during the Night Ranger shows, and I think they're awesome. And Taylor guitars play great right out of the box. When you build a great guitar, that's fine. It's the finish work that guitar companies have to do to make it right.
Sure.
And they do a good job at that. And they asked us to come down and play the Taylor NAMM, their little, they had an actual room. And we did it a couple times. We did it with Joel and I playing together. We did, a couple things with the band and him and I together. And then we came back one year and we were playing all of Taylor electric guitars too.
Yeah.
But they didn't seem to set up their Floyd Roses the way I liked. So I got through the gig, but it really wasn't for me. I went back to my 62 Strat.
I was trying to remember the guy's name now, but Taylor did the road shows where they'd go to the local music stores and they would sell the Taylors or whatever. And they always had a touring musician that was the player. Like he was making them all sound good, like great players do. Right. And he was, I'll think of his name in a minute, but irrelevant to the story, I guess, but he was playing with the Manhattan Transfer at the time. And he said, I used to carry 10, 12, 13 guitars on the road. And he said, man, when I got my hands on that T5Z, that was the only guitar I carried with me on tour, right? I could get every sound out of that I wanted.
Wow.
And I was going to ask you kind of I guess as a segue, do you think you could pull off a Night Ranger show with a guitar like a hybrid guitar? Does that make sense? It may not make sense for Night Ranger, right? Or could you do that?
Like a T5, you're saying?
Yeah.
No, only on acoustic stuff. No,
Okay.
I not on. I'm not gonna play that. Don't Tell Me Love Me.
Sure. Okay. Yeah.
No. I play my red Strat, and that's what I play. And I have back in 1985, we went to Japan, and Fernandez ended up making 100 copies of my red Strat, Brad Gillis models. And so I have a few of those on the road that are original Floyd Roses and built-in wireless, Shure wireless systems that I play those on the road. So I take this guy.
Look
at this guy. Here it is.
Yeah. Wow.
And it's my original one, and it's all sanded down, and you can see the old anyway. That's the old wireless antenna, which was an 80 system that's going through the bottom here.
Okay.
Dug in there, but now I use the Shures, and those are only really short antennas. And this is where my Shure wireless is built in, and you just change the battery on that, and there's a switch to turn it off and on.
Very cool.
Third Floyd Rose ever made by Floyd in his garage. Eddie got the first one, Neil Sean got the second one, I got the third one, and the fourth one, which I put on my black 1971 Les Paul Custom. And he only made 25-ish in his garage. I have about a dozen of them. I mean, I'm still looking for them if anybody's got them.
And those things really don't go out of tune, right?
They're case hardened steel. No, they're, the later ones were made with, I guess, pot metal, but they flux. I've had this thing since 1979 when I bought it, and it's still running. It's still great. Yeah. Only thing you have to do, technical talk, is, every couple of years you have to, either you have to file down inside this bridge plate here and get that knife edge back into it so it goes up and down. It's smooth. When it flattens out, it'll be flat, sharp, flat, sharp. If that makes sense. Also now, I signed with a new company that I'm working with. They wanted to hire me. Have you heard of StewMac?
I have. I think they are. They are like the maker of parts and things for stringed instruments, right? Something along those lines.
They make luthier tools for people that build guitars.
Okay.
And the stuff they build is super high quality. Everything. If you look up StewMac, STEWMAC, is short for Stuart McDonald.
Yep.
You'll see they make great parts. Anyway, they contacted me. They hired me to because they want to branch out. Instead of doing guitar kits and acoustic kits that you could build that they sell now, they want to have finished products, finished guitars, finished acoustics, and go for more of the mainstream guitar players like you that just play and maybe switch pickups and do stuff like that. So they're branching out. They hired me to be their spokesman, whatever. And they've hired me. I am their chief innovation officer now, which I'll be announcing soon, as I just signed with them just not too long ago. But I've designed a couple new products that no one's things that people have never heard of or used before. And these products will be coming out soon through them. And I wish I could mention them, but I can't. But I'm getting them patented and I make sure they're all legally in my name. So when they do manufacture and sell these, that I'm covered for everything. But so I'm into my whole creative mode, knowing that anything I invent, I have a huge company in Athens, Ohio, that has a 50,000 square foot warehouse, 4-story building that encompasses everything from CNC machines and woodworking machines to products to build effects and everything, video rooms and video photo booths. anything I do and manufacture and have for them, they could manufacture and sell them. And so that's totally exciting for me.
That is super cool. And what percentage of your time would you say goes into the Stu Mac project, or do you not really know how much time you're going to be spending on that yet?
I had a month off right after the holidays, and we had not very little weekend gigs in the last couple of months. It usually happens right around the holidays. So I've been at my house here building and designing all these products I'm talking about. And I swear I'd stay up for 16 hours working on some of these things, and I'd have to put myself to bed because it's so exciting knowing that I've got something that the huge company is going to release. So what I can tell you about are these pickups, this red humbucking pickup that I designed the artwork for, and they wound for me. I told them I wanted a PAF style pickup that has that old PAF sound that the 50s Gibsons have, you know. And I told them I wanted that crunchy sound, but with sustain. Now, I don't know anything about wiring a pickup, but they do.
Sure.
So I brought my Bubba down to them. I took it to their Stu Mac in Athens, Ohio, and they went through and they took measurements of my guitar, of everything, and they because we're going to start manufacturing guitars. We're getting into that, but they ended up making these pickups, and they're on my guitars. I've been playing them live. I can talk about it because they're starting to manufacture them now, and we're going to hopefully have them out here in the next month or so for people to buy. But I got to tell you, man, I mean, I had Seymour Duncan JBs on there before. I had the original PJ Marks pickups that he used to make in the 80s that I used for a while, which are great, more super high output pickups. But these new pickups, man, they got a thing, man. I've been playing them live, and this my guitar singing and sustain and good harmonics, and the crunch is really shooting out there, and they're working for me.
How do they do that, Brad? Do they do they just design a pickup and you say, nope, that's not the sound, it needs to sound like this, and then they go back and they do their magic and come back to you with another rev?
They make
and
prototypes.
You say, okay, we're getting close, but we're not there yet. Go back and do it again. Is that kind of the process?
Yeah, they made prototypes. They send them to me, and I'd have my guitar tech, Darren Hurst, pop them in on the road, and then I'd play them. But the first one they did a few prototypes on their own until they felt comfortable with what I wanted. So they sent me the latest one, which they have, and this is it in my Bubba right here. And I did a video for them. It's online. Stu Mac, you'll see it somewhere, and you'll see me playing it during sound check and how it's stinging and working for me. So they're going with this design, this prototype, and they've made 5 or 6 more. Darren's got some. He just popped them into my 2 other guitars on our A rig. I got 3 guitars, 3 Bubbas that I play on the road. One's my original, and the other 2 are Fernandez copies. But he's installed these pickups on them, and they're great. And I have a couple here at home. I'm putting on a couple guitars here, so I have that sound at home to record with.
Sure. Well, I meant to ask you 2 questions earlier. One of them was about the vintage, the guitar collection. Is there a centerpiece guitar that you have in this collection that you would consider the centerpiece? Or I know that's kind of like calling, one of your babies prettier than the others.
No, that's fine. Actually, I got a few. I have a 1959 Les Paul Custom 3 pickup gold mint that I got about a year ago. That's most expensive high-end guitar I own, $150,000 guitar, whatever they go for, who knows? Oh, wow. But I love it. Original PAFs, all that stuff. I got a 1968 Fender Telecaster, pink paisley, which is very cool. Mint, bought a Guitar Center in LA about 20 years ago. I have a 1952 Les Paul Gold Top. I have 3 of them, and one of them's absolutely mint. And I put a Mojo Axe bridge on it to get away from that round bridges that they have that were no good back then. I have they did these reissue Gibson J200 Elvis Presley's that have Elvis Presley down the neck. Awesome, yeah. Sounds great. And the J200 Vine, which is beautiful and sounds great. And then I have, all these old Stratocasters from the 50s. A couple are really mint. And Stratocasters, they have that sound too, man. You play a 50s original Strat that the wood's dried up and they just, they got a thing. They sound great. Right. So those are my staples.
That's cool.
In my collection. I got a bunch of old amps, of course, 1959 Basemans, and I got all the Fenders amps from the Vibro Champ up into the, Vibro Verbs and Vibro Luxes, Deluxes, all that stuff. Sure. And I have those because I record with them and use them on Night Ranger records and stuff, and they got their own thing. So I got quite the guitar and amp collection.
Yeah, well, you mentioned that J200, and I have to admit, you can see some of them, but I mean, for the longest time, I was a big Taylor player. In fact, when I got this one tattoo on my arm, you can see that.
There you go.
I love Taylor. I was a big Taylor player, but I'll tell you, this J200 right here is my go-to workhorse acoustic, and that thing sounds like a freaking cannon, man. I'm telling you.
Well, yeah, they're huge. Amazing. They sound big, I've recorded a bit, micing those up with a couple microphones and stuff, and then I have a lot of guitars that have the built-in Fishman pickups too, so it's great to always be able to mic a guitar and then use the microphones within it to double up on recording to get them to sound as good as possible.
Yeah, and the other question I was going to ask you, Brad, is that are you a technical player, or are you only a by ear player? Like, do you read music? Do you understand the whole theory behind the music, or you just say, "Give me a tape and let me"?
No, I don't read music. I read chord charts, but I don't read music. I just wasn't my thing. I learned by ear.
Fair enough.
And you just give me a recording, and tell me what you want to play. I'll sit down and play it back, and I'll learn it. And I think that's that kind of takes you away from being, what's the right word?
You get away from the field playing, right? Like you.
I'm into soul and feel.
Sure. There you go.
And I could take something and then just interject my own style to it to make it me with a little whammy bar inflections and stuff. And that's where I'm at.
There you go.
I love jamming with other bands. One of my favorite things to do is here in town when I got a weekend off. My friends, I got a bunch of friends in bands playing, just going and sitting with them. And
that's cool.
What do you got? Let's do it.
That's it.
And just picking up on it because mostly all the classic songs I know anyway from playing in the Alameda All Stars back then. But
yeah.
I am not a technical player.
There you go. You're technical in your own right.
I've never even claimed to be a shredder, but people say I shredded with Ozzy. But I'm a stylist player. I play with my own style.
Sure. Yeah. Well, we fast forward a little bit. Monsters of Rock cruise. It's coming up. What can you share with the listeners regarding the cruise?
What those cruises?
Yeah, the Monsters of Rock cruise.
They're awesome. I mean, we've done quite a few, and they're always a blast. You get all these different bands to do them and stuff, but it's good to just like hang and see all these people. And Joel Hoekstra seems to be at most of those. He does this like morning hangover, morning whatever he calls it, and he plays acoustic and serves drinks or whatever. So it'd be fun to see him and hang out with everybody. We love doing those. They're just a lot of fun, and and then you get to dock and at a port, and you get to go off during the day and bop around or shop, whatever. Get back on. You're out that night cruising over. Then you play. I think we played 2 shows on the 5-day cruise, whatever it is, and looking forward to it. We hadn't done one in a little while. We did one last. We do about one a year.
This one coming up, I think, is April. Does that sound?
Yep.
That sound right?
April 12th ish, something like that. Yep.
Yeah. How does it feel though to be surrounded by fans for 5 days, 24 by 7?
Well,
what's your take on that?
That's always the issue because you're walking around, they kind of get in your face, and I can deal with it up until a point. But I usually walk around with one of my crew guys, And when it gets to the point where people are in my face, I say, "Hey, sorry, I got to go," and kind of bow out. I slip out.
Yeah.
But that's part of the life I chose. I mean, it's especially when you're on a cruise, because everybody knows who you are.
Of course. Well,
But they put us, they put us away in a whole different deck where only the bands can get to and the fans can't.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing. They're not banging on my door.
Okay, guys.
And I got my own swimming pool.
There you go. There's a big one right off the side of the ship too that you can swim in, right? Well, did you find that the sea air,
what?
The sea, like the salt air from
what about
the sea, did you find that it affected the guitar, the tone, or anything like that? Is that a
No, it doesn't affect it.
Okay.
The only thing that affects it is from going cold to hot, hot to cold. That'll screw up your guitar when you're tuning and playing live. That's why we've realized if you're playing in a warm room, a lot of people and it's packed. And you're backstage and you're trying to warm up and the room's cold, you got to give it back to your tech to let it acclimate to the temperature before you play, because there's always a temperature change doing that stuff.
That makes sense.
But we got this stuff down. We've been doing it for too long. You know?
Of course. Any unexpected jam sessions that happen on those ships for you guys, or is it just your 2 shows and you're done?
No, they do jam sessions, and they've asked me to play on a few. I'm not sure. I can't give you details. I don't know many, but I said, yeah, I'll play. If I'm not gigging with the band, sure, I'm a ham. I'll get on stage and play, because I've always been a ham. I've never been shy to get on stage. I guess I lost my shyness playing with Ozzy, because once you do that gig, you can do anything. But there will be a few jam sessions which I will be involved with.
Very cool. And what does the tour, the Night Ranger tour, is there one coming up that you can speak of? Is it, if there is one, is it stateside? Is it European tour? Like, what can you speak of there?
We're definitely going to Europe, doing the Frontiers Music Festival in Italy. We just played Rubicon in Japan, sold it out. That's great. So they're having us come back to Japan to play with somebody major at a major event, but I can't talk about it yet. But we are going back to Japan, which is awesome. We had a big tour lined up with a couple other bands, and it fell through. No reason even to mention it, but I know we got shows with Brett Michaels. Love playing with him. He's great. Always jam with him. And the ZZ Tops and the Lover Boys and everybody. We got shows around with everybody and a lot of these festivals and stuff. But they're still booking a lot of them, and we're still waiting to hear what they are.
Yeah, how did the European, when you play a show in Europe, how did the European, how do I ask the question and be, I guess, I don't really know politically correct, but I know you guys have a great following in Japan specifically, but how do you see the fan base differ there versus the U.S.? Can you speak to that? And
yeah, here's the deal with that. We went over to Europe a couple times when we came out, and we did real well. We stopped going to Europe for quite a couple decades. Then we got offered to do those big Sweden rock festivals, and there was a couple of huge festivals with 50,000-ish people. And when we did those, we realized that fans knew who we were and loved us, and we came across great. But when we went to do a couple shows on our own, we would only do 1,000 to 2,000 people on our own.
Okay.
Because we didn't keep up our longevity of coming back every year like all these other bands do. And you got some of these other bands that always go over there and they do very well and headline these other festivals. When we do a festival, we do well. If there's 8 or 10 bands for the day, we'll be up there 3rd or 4th from the top and get a great response. But that's the deal with that. We didn't return every year to keep up the momentum.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. And I guess I'll have to ask Bethany this, because, she'll tell you if she was, her and Graham both have been on my show, and they're wonderful.
They do well over there.
She'll tell you that we can't find a gig stateside, but we can go over there and sell out just about every place we go. And I'm like, that's interesting how that works, right? You guys
got to realize, that they go over there all the time, and And, you know, he's been with so many great bands to have his name out there, to be able to sell well. Like I said, we do well when we're we're trying to get them to pop us on some more shows here real soon.
Yep. Is there anything that you can share with the?
Yeah.
You're good.
Hold on.
Yep.
Damn it. Woo. I was talking too much and forgot to bring up some water.
You're all good, man. We're almost done here. I'll clip that out. No worries. Is there anything that you can share with the listeners of Backstage Pass Radio regarding new music from Night Ranger? Is there anything in the works? I mean, I'm not looking for specifics, but anything that anybody can look forward to from a new music perspective.
We have Frontiers putting out a best of here real soon, which we're going to do. I've been trying to get a solo record out forever, and a lot of it I have. I'm singing some stuff. I got Gary Moon singing some stuff. Gary's freaking awesome. I got these little mini guitars.
Oh, cool! Yeah, just like yours. Yeah,
they're great.
Yeah,
that are for sale through X Heaven.
Got the same stickers and everything's the same.
They're amazing. Yeah. Look, it's got real strings on it and whammy bar.
That's cool. And remind me, where can you get these at again, Brad?
X Heaven.
Can it be just axheaven.com? Okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I just signed a bunch of them. I sign every one. They're releasing those. Like I said, as far as, new things coming out, just our tour. I'm so busy. I'm trying to remodel my house. I'm inventing these things for Stu Mac, trying to get my inventions out there, touring a lot, building guitars. I build them at home too. I built a couple exact replicas of these.
Okay.
With all the scratches. I use metal picks, hence all the scratches. And I'm going to be selling a few of those. And also, I got a buddy, Jim Cara, C-A-R-A, Cara Guitars, who's been making replica. In fact, we just sold one last week. Doing a great job. Everything perfect as my Bubba. And he's been selling those to, he makes them, hand makes them, and they take a while to do. So, Cara Guitars, anybody interested in buying one of those? And if somebody buys one, I usually get them to a show. Meet with them in a hotel room, give them a lesson, play the guitar, bring them backstage and schmooze them and make it worthwhile with buying one of these replicas. So I'm doing that.
Where do you find the replicas at again, Brad?
Jim Cara Guitars.
Okay.
Now Jim Cara, he made a bunch of guitars for Ace Frehley.
Okay.
That are the smoking guitars before he passed. And doing all that, he built a bunch of Gene Simmons basses for Gene, and he does real well at making these. And a lot of different artists he does replicas for. But I got him doing them for me, but he even told me mine take the longest to make because of all these scratches, dings, and. That basically, when I got this guitar sanded down in a box in 1978. A friend of my brother's came over in 1962 Stratocaster, just to let you know the history. And I was playing in Rubicon at the time. Mm-hmm. He goes, "Hey, Brad, I got the 62 Strat. I sanded it down and I was going to paint it. I never did." He goes, "Do you want it?" I said, "Sure. Yeah, man. Cool." And I had a Dawson 240Z that was custom painted that I bought from some guy, and I had an extra gallon of Imron paint, orange red paint, in a can. So I took it down and had them. You can see the gray primer to a body shop in Oakland, California, an actual body shop, and they hung it and sprayed with a car primer.
That's cool.
And sprayed my Imron orange red paint on it, and that's what this guitar and this one I've had all my life. And so Jim Cara has the same paint color scheme and gray primer. He does the same thing. And scratches them out with metal pick like this. This is all from metal picks throughout my career, and all the stickers and everything on it. And he can't get originals, but he tries to get, the second generation FRT2s and 3s, whatever, to pop on these guitars and sand it down the back, exactly like mine, with the actual the old wire that goes in here. He does great copies without the wireless system. So he just put wireless in them. Those are only my guitars. But this guitar has been a workhorse in everything I've done, and I'm all guitars, man.
I know
Not
you
only
are.
a collector, but a builder and a player. So
well, you have so many
stuff,
so many cool things going on, and it's as we get up there in age, it's always good to be relevant. You know what I mean? You're
Sure.
busy, you're doing things, you're in demand, and that's a wonderful thing.
I think my lucky stars to still be doing
hell
it.
yeah.
I'm blessed.
And every day above ground is a good day. And it sounds like you're doing all the right things to try to keep that the longevity there in your life too, right? By eating right and doing all the things. And
thank you, Randy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I tell people I'm plenty 9.
Yeah.
Plenty 9.
Exactly, man. Well, listen, where can the listeners of Backstage Pass Radio find either you or you and the band on social media?
Well, I'm a big LinkedIn guy.
All
I
right.
start there, and I'm like one of the only rockers that are on there, and people are really loving it. And I have tens of thousands of loyal business fans. Of course, anybody that knows LinkedIn, it's all professionals, and I met so many professionals through LinkedIn. And then we have a social media guy named Josh who takes everything I do on LinkedIn and he throws it to Instagram and Facebook and everywhere else. So under my name, whatever, you can look me up. Of course, BradGillis.com. I haven't really changed much on that lately. I got to get up to date on that. But just look me up on social media. I don't do much social media, but when I do, I'll do, like I said, do some on LinkedIn. I get thrown around everywhere else. But last couple of days, I did 3 posts. And when is this coming out that we're doing?
It's probably a couple of weeks out.
Okay, so by then, we'll be back out on the road and probably doing the Monsters of Rock cruise and going to Europe and hopefully I'll have new products out with Stu Mac that Mike mentions soon.
Well, you'll have to come back
a couple
and
things
share
on there that hopefully are going to blow people away because they've never been done before.
Yeah, and you'll have to come back sometime and catch up with me and any new stuff that you have coming out.
You got it, Randy.
For sure. Brad, this has been super cool, man. I really appreciate you sticking with me here and getting this scheduled. I know we went back and forth a lot on text.
Well, you caught me at the right time.
Yeah, but all good stuff. Appreciate you being here, brother. I wish you can, continued success on the road, good health, all the things. And you guys make sure to go out and follow Brad and the guys of Night Ranger on the official band page. You can find them at nightranger.com. And then I'm sure just a Google search, right, Brad, will find you guys everywhere you need to be found, right?
Yeah, and go to Night Ranger, on either, Instagram or wherever, Facebook, Instagram, or Night Ranger, and to find out where we're playing. If we're coming to your city, we're all over the map, and you won't be disappointed. We put 100% into our shows and throw it down, and we throw a couple of Yankees tunes in there. Sometimes we throw Crazy Train in there, do a little Ozzy, and sometimes we do a little Alice Cooper tune, which Carrie used to play with.
Sure.
So we mix it up, try to change things up. We know what town we were in the last time, and we know the set, so we changed the set. So if we're in your town, the year before, we make sure to change up a couple of the songs to make each show different and fun.
Yeah. Well, I always say, Brad, that I have people on my show that their music has either inspired me or moved me either recently or over the years. And you're here for a reason, right? And I appreciate the time. So thanks for being here. And I ask the listeners to like, share, and subscribe to the podcast on Facebook at Backstage Pass Radio Podcast, on Instagram at Backstage Pass Radio, and on the website at BackstagePassRadio.com. You guys remember to take care of yourselves and each other, and we will see you right back here on the next episode of Backstage Pass Radio.